Stand by.
Okay.
Go.
Welcome, everybody, to Mosaic Arts Online and our live event. This is so exciting to be back on our YouTube channel with all of you here, and even more exciting that we are coming to you also from Ravenna, Italy, with our good friend and latest instructor to join the Mosaic Arts Online community, Ariana Gallo from Coco Mosaico. Thank you, Ariana.
Thanks to you. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with you.
We are so thrilled to have you as part of Mosaic Arts Online now and our course that we're launching today. We know you have another course we'll launch in a couple months, but today we are launching the direct Ravenna method. And Jerry and I, if you didn't know, went to Ravenna, Italy, into the studio that you're looking at right now, and filmed Ariana's courses. And it was such a wonderful experience. And we are so thrilled that we were able to bring Ravenna, Italy to Mosaic Arts Online. And it was just such a great experience. So thank you for having us. Thank you, Luca, for allowing us to be in your studio and take up space there and be able to film the courses. So what we wanted to get started with today was give you a little background about Ravenna, and Ariana is going to share a little bit about what it was like to grow up there. She's from Ravenna, Italy, and if you have any questions, you can ask them throughout the time we're going to be here. We plan on doing an hour, but if it goes a little longer, great. But at the end, Ariana is definitely open to lots of questions, so we will definitely answer those. So starting now, Ariana, tell us a little bit about your background and what it was like to grow up in Ravenna.
Okay, so I was born here in Ravenna, and I grew up here, and I attended the Mosaic School, Istituto d'Arte Gino Severini, Istituto d'Arte per il Mosaico. There is a high school where you can study also Mosaic. So I studied there, Mosaic, for 5 years. And then I attended a special university that is here in Ravenna about Mosaic restoration. And so I studied also ancient mosaics. That actually ancient mosaics are my first love, absolutely. It's my big passion. And so I spent some years as a mosaic restorer and stone buildings restorer. And then I decided to do just mosaic. And growing up in Ravenna, it's, mosaics, you can breathe mosaics in Ravenna because we have a long tradition of mosaic. We have the ancient mosaics in the churches. We have 8 UNESCO monuments, 7 that have mosaic inside, and they are just very precious, unique mosaics that belongs to the early Christian period. And I also had the opportunity to work on some of that mosaics. For example, in Galla Placidia, in a wall, mosaic in a Galla Placidia during the years of the Restoration School, the Restoration Mosaic University, and also in the floor of San Vitale, a small part of the floor of San Vitale. And that was amazing for me. And of course, I grew up and I went to school and to university with some of that nowadays are some of my favorite artists also, because in Ravenna come a lot of people that are interested into mosaic, that loves mosaic, wants to learn about mosaic. And so it's also Ravenna is not a big city, it's quite small, but it has also an international side about mosaic, of course.
Well, and I think that's special because I was so overwhelmed when I had heard about Ravenna obviously for many years and had hoped to get there one day. But the first time you do walk in to the basilicas, it is overwhelming to see these mosaics and, the detail and the color. It's incredible. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I think you're starting to get into what my next question is what inspires you to create Mosaic? Because you have a very, dynamic job being the creative director of Coco Mosaico, which is a very big working studio, or as you guys call it, a laboratory. And then you can create your own work. So who and what inspires you to create?
So the big inspiration comes mostly from the ancient mosaic. And the ancient mosaics for me are very important. And so from the ancient mosaic, I learned the grammar of mosaic by doing a copy, of course. And then when I learned the grammar, I invented how to break the rules and finding my own way to do mosaic. And so the big inspiration, of course, the ancient mosaic, but also the environment that I have around me here in Ravenna. As I was telling you before, in Ravenna there are a lot of mosaic artists. And so it's a very alive atmosphere here, especially now, because now in Ravenna we have the Mosaic Biennale. And so for 2 months we have a lot of exhibitions, not just about Ravenna artists, also international artists. And so it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, yes. And we did see through some social media, some of the artists that we're familiar with here in the States have pieces hanging in Ravenna right now, which is really exciting to see that you can live here, really grow and succeed as an artist and then show it at the Biennale in Ravenna, which is really an amazing thing. So when you're in Coco Mosaico with your team, how do you find time between teaching and creating? Where do you find the time? Because I know when we were there, it was a really big deal for you to even, make the time to film because you're so busy and you're managing the studio as well.
Yes, so my day is always busy, very busy, because I'm also a mom.
Mm-hmm. 2 beautiful boys.
Boys, 10 and 13 years old. And but of course I spend the big part of my day in my studio, and I love my work, I love my job. I have assistants, very precious assistants that help me in following the commissions and also in teaching, because here in Coco Mosaico we work mostly on demand. And so we follow the idea of the client, and then we translate the idea into mosaic. Sometimes I do also the projects. And so this is a part of the work in Coco Mosaico. And then we teach also. We run workshops like the direct Ravenna method, or opus vermiculatum course, or contemporary mosaic techniques. We have portrait techniques. We have a lot of different workshops here, and it's I love this part of my job, because I can meet a lot of people, and so it's a little bit like traveling, because every time people from abroad come into my studio, and since I love to travel, I meet people from different culture, different places, and I really love this part of my job. And sometimes I can also find a little bit of time for my personal research, but honestly, not a lot of time.
Not a lot of time, but
it's something quite big to manage.
Yes, and I understand that as someone that was more of a creator before, that now I spend more of my time managing the business, which I love. So I don't have a complaint, but it is a shift in life from where you started to where you are now, and you just go with it and grow it. So it is a beautiful thing. Before we get too far ahead, I want you to share a little bit about in your history and how the Ravenna method became the Ravenna method, and what when you do create and you are in your Zen space, share a little bit about how all that happened.
Okay, so the Ravenna method, it's quite old, I can say, because it was invented here in Ravenna by a mosaic artist, mosaic master, and a restorer named Signorini, Renato Signorini, who was also the director of the Ravenna Mosaic group during the 20s of the last century. So it's a technique born 100 years ago, 100 years ago, more or less. In Ravenna, we are very attached to this technique because it was the first technique that we studied at school, for example. And so we grew up as a mosaic artist, me and my colleagues, and even my teachers learned as a first technique the direct Ravenna method. And this technique sometimes could also intimidate a little bit the people who approach to this technique for the first time, because it has a lot of different steps and you need materials and tools and so on. But I think it's a technique very good if you want to learn in deep the grammar and the rules of mosaic. Because working onto a temporary frame, that could be temporary frame of lime or temporary frame of clay, you don't need to work in rush. I mean, it's not like working on cement. If you work on section and if you work with cement, you have a time frame of work. And with lime or clay, you can work very relaxed, and also you can check every piece that you put. And for example, if the day after you realize that you don't like how you put a piece, the way you don't like the line, you don't like the andamento, or you don't like the color that you choose, even at the very last moment when you finish your mosaic onto lime, you can change something, and so you can correct mistake. And so sometimes I like to say that working on with this technique, it's like writing on a blackboard. So you write, you do this mosaic, and then you can delete, you can remove pieces, you can adjust. And of course, when you think that this mosaic is perfect for you, and you check everything, you change what you wanted to change, then that could be after weeks, after a few months also, you can glue it and you can move in the other steps. And so this is a technique very, very good if you want to enjoy the movement of doing mosaic without any rush.
It is so incredible. It truly, for me as an artist that only knew how to put my pieces into thin set or mortar and work 2 hours at a time with my little pot of thin set, this is truly like a step back in all the right ways to learn how to create mosaic. And if more of this had been available for me and maybe other students, then it is a whole different learning process. And in a little bit, I'll show you a little bit of a demo I did as a new student to this process and how easy it really is. It does maybe look intimidating because there are a lot of parts to it, but it's one of those things that it may be the only way you want to create a mosaic moving forward. And what I think Ariana and I want to discuss really quickly with you is the difference between the indirect method, which this is not, it is a direct method, but there's a little confusion about another title of a method called the double reverse. And when we were first in Ravenna, that's what we thought this course was going to be called. And I'll let Ariana sort of explain how that misunderstanding has now been clarified, and we are moving forward with this course now called the direct Ravenna method.
Yes, exactly. And so, you know, in a lot of literature, in a lot of books, is written double reverse method. That's why we decided to name this workshop like this at the beginning. But you know, I'm not an English mother tongue. Of course, you can hear it, and so. Thanks God, I met Annabella Weber, my friend Annabella Weber, just a few weeks ago. She was here in Ravenna, and so discussing with her about this name, she pointed out that double reverse method, reverse, the meaning of reverse, it's indirect. And so she was asking me, why this name? It's tricky. I mean, you can get confused. Why reverse? It's not a reverse method. And I said, wow, yes, Annabella, you're right. It's not a reverse, an indirect method. It's a direct method. But since you have to flip the mosaic over twice, maybe there was an error of a translation. And so we also had the opportunity, while Annabella was here, to make a small research that Annabella now is even doing deeply. And I'm very curious soon to hear from her, because probably this translation error was made around the 80s, and then was copied and was misused this term, because it's not an indirect technique.
And I think that that's important that we are pointing that out. And the other thing I do want to point out that I did not point out at the beginning, it has not been lost on us throughout this whole process of working with Ariana and Luca that English is not their mother tongue, and how incredible their English is, and what it takes for Ariana to think in Italian, because that's what she does, and then speak in English to get this process out and this very incredible course out. We're grateful, and it's appreciated, and it is not lost on us. So with that, yes, this course was originally titled the double reverse method, because that's what we thought, because Ariana went along, and I have seen other teachers use that title as well. But like we said, we've done some research that was after filming, but during post-production. And thanks to Annabella Weber, we are able to now call this its proper name, which is the direct Ravenna method. So that part is now smoothed out. And what you're seeing in front of Ariana is some samples and parts of the course, like you see on a lot of our intro tables when we are introducing a course. So you will see the intro at the beginning of the course that we've now launched. And you will also see a very long extended version, which is the first section of the course, which shares a lot more about Ariana's history and being in Ravenna. And she does say double reverse a couple times, but we're not going to worry about that. But Ariana, could you talk a little bit about the piece that's in front of you? The piece that you make in the course, you no longer have because it was a commission. But the one in front of you is one of the choices that people can make in the course. And then I will show you my version that I'm working on.
Yes, so this is a mosaic that I made by using a smalti. We work a lot with smalti, and I made it using the direct Ravenna method, and what was the question?
We were just going to talk. I can ask you more about the fact that what we want to tell everyone too is that in the course you show some modifications. because
yes.
what Ariana likes to work with is in a special kind of temporary frame. That's just the material that she puts the lime on, is something that's easier to find in Italy than the States, but we have modifications for that. We have modifications for the lime, which is clay, and we have modifications for the glue. So I'll let you share a little bit more about how you do love to do it your way, which you've been doing for years and is appreciated. But we wanted to make it more accessible for people in the States because lime putty is very challenging to find. But I will show you my version using clay in a minute, but talk a little bit more about what the modifications are.
Yes, so it's not difficult just in US. Also around Europe, it's very difficult. Probably everywhere in the world except Italy, because in building construction we continue to use lime putty. And since it's the tradition here in Ravenna, of course, we use mostly lime putty, but in my studio we use a lot of clay also, because clay is perfect. For example, if you work with small pieces. So before I spoke a little bit about, I mentioned opus vermiculatum. Opus vermiculatum, for example, it's a technique, it's a way to do a mosaic, a technique born in 2000 years ago with the Greeks and also the Romans. And in my studio, we carry on also this ancient technique of opus vermiculatum. It's very difficult to work, to do an opus vermiculatum onto lime. And so we always use the clay when we work with tiny pieces. Opus vermiculatum, we could say micro mosaic, but it's not like filato, mosaico filato. So opus vermiculatum is in marble and stones. And so we are very happy to use both lime and clay. And so in my workshop, in the direct Ravenna method on Mosaic Arts Online, you are going to see how I work with lime, of course, because the tradition of Ravenna is with lime. And you are going to see also the clay version. And also we use, as a tradition, the rabbit skin glue. And but maybe if you cannot find it, or if you don't want to use it, you can use the flower glue. That is very, very easy, and the result is exactly the same. And in the course, I'm going to show you exactly all the steps, how works the lime, how works the clay, how works the rabbit skin glue, and how works the flower glue, and how to make your own flower glue if you don't want to buy a flower glue already, I mean ready, because there is also this option.
Yes, we have definitely found some other options where you can buy the flower glue pre-made. You can, it's not expensive. You can make it yourself. And Ariana goes into a very thorough demonstration of making the flower glue. And it is the way the course is designed is in chapters, so that you can skip over the lime if you're only going to do clay. You can skip over the rabbit glue if you want to do flour and water. And the frame, she gives many options how to make the temporary frame. And then she shows how she is transferring it to her permanent substrate. And then there's the other options. So the pieces you see behind Ariana are all pieces that are made in the studio, and they're all what we call the framed option. So they are made into, when it goes into the permanent substrate, it is that frame that you see behind her. And then her fragmented style is the style that is the pomegranates in front of her. So she can show you all of these are incredibly doable, achievable, and gorgeous with all that gold. And there's a simple, and that's what they're on, is that piece of wood. Now, Ariana does use wood as a substrate, but it is always marine grade wood, so it can have moisture on it. But if that's not easy for you to find, Wetty board works exactly the same. So
Yes.
we're going to be open to some questions, if there's some technical questions and things like that after we finish talking, which we just have a little bit more. But what I think is really important is I am someone, like I said, that only has ever worked in the literally direct method of putting, mortar thin set down and adding my pieces down. And having gone to Ravenna and studied all of the large ancient mosaics, and then watching Ariana create her course, there is so much to learn just by looking at the art. When you're looking at these large mosaics that are so old, you look at the gradations, you look at the color choices, the andamento. It is really quite incredible. And I think Ariana said it perfectly, and I'm going to steal this sentence and use it from now on, that you learn the grammar by copying. And that is so important, that we do copy the replicas. And that is what this course is Ariana does make a replica from the Mausoleum Gallo Placidia. And it is a small section of it. Don't think you're making a whole wall. It's a very small section of it that you'll see in the course. And it is probably the best way to learn some very basic andamento, that once that is in your brain, all of a sudden you can be doing more things. And maybe you follow Annabella Weber and you go into more advanced andamento courses, and then you can break the rules. That's once you've learned the grammar, like she said, then you break the rules. So what I have here is very much the beginning stages of a mosaic. So this is clay, which is really easy to find. This is having the design. This is actually the design of the what's in front of Ariana, the pomegranates. And it has got just a few pieces of smalty that you can see are in here. And if I had to pull one out right now, it comes out very easily and could go back in if I needed to change something. But this design of the clay, of the plastic, is so important too, because you have to cover your plastic, your clay, or your lime up. And I'm not gonna be able to do it standing up, but this is a really important part. And I want to show you one other thing. There is a little bit of, again, back to what we were talking about, the double reverse. And we call it the direct method. But there are two drawings that you're going to do. And you're going to do one drawing on what's called cellophane paper, or cellophane. I don't know how really to call it paper, but it is cellophane. And that's how you will trace your image. So if you choose the pomegranates that's in front of Ariana, you will then trace your design. I'm just giving you a quick little and then it will go over this. This is not the way to show it. It's getting really ugly. And then you will take some glassine paper and you will copy it again, but you will do it upside down. So you'll turn this is where things maybe get a little confusing in that double reverse title they had back in the past, is that you turn your cellophane paper upside down, you put your glassine over it, and you trace it again. That is how you get the design onto your lime or putty. And I mean your lime or your clay. I think a lot of people ask that question. And so that is how, and then once it is complete, you move forward. So I'm not going to give you the whole course right now in this down and dirty way, but I just wanted to show you more importantly how easy it was for me, because I do think people get intimidated by this technique. At least here in the States, it is not that common, and we want it to become more common, because like Ariana also said, you can work on it for a long period of time. No more having to chisel out your pieces if you don't like them. She shows you how to fix pieces if even after the thin set they came out. She shows you how to pull pieces out before you start the thin set. So I think all in all, this course is invaluable to any mosaic artist at any stage of their level, journey, whatever you want to call it. So Ariana, is there anything else you wanted to add before I maybe open this up to some questions?
Yes, I would like to say that, of course, in this workshop online, I choose to do a replica of an ancient mosaic, like Tami, you just said. But you can use this technique also for doing a contemporary drawing, your own design. So it's not a technique. I mean, it was invented at the beginning to make a good replica of the ancient mosaic here in Ravenna. But nowadays, here in Ravenna, we work with a lot of different techniques, and we decide the right technique according to the mosaic that we have to do. And so could happen also that we decide to use the direct Ravenna method with a contemporary drawing. Can happen. It's a daily routine.
Yeah, and then okay, let me clarify one more thing, and then we'll open it to questions. Using the gauze and either glue is paramount to this process, because I know a lot of people here in the States also use what we call tile tape. You cannot use tile tape on Italian smalty successfully, because what the gauze does is it captures each level of the smalty. It's not flat like stained glass. It is not flat like ceramic tile. That gauze is so important part of the process. So it's easier to learn this process than to try and piecemeal together things that maybe you did do and thought that you could use tile tape on top of Italian smalty. It won't be a success. Trust me, I've tried that in the past. And so learning this whole technique all the way from beginning to end, you could be making backsplashes. Once that glue is dry with the gauze and you remove your mosaic and clean the back of it, it can go anywhere. It can go on a table. It can go on a floor. It can go on a backsplash. It can go on a frame. This process is not just for hanging on a wall, but it's really important that that glue and gauze are so important to this process that every piece is held on, and it's very strong once it's held on, that then it can be removed from your temporary substrate. Is there anything else you want to add? Otherwise, we do have a couple questions coming in.
No.
No? Okay. Hang on one second. Let me get this question. I'll be right with you. Someone just asked, do you need to seal the marine grade wood?
No. No, because the wood that we find here in Italy is, of course, I use the marine wood just for mosaic that are going to be installed indoor, of course. If I want to put something outdoor, I use the aluminum honeycomb between two layers of fiberglass, what we call aerolam. And no, we don't see it.
So if you can't find the aluminum she's talking about, we would say Wetty board is probably the most interchangeable of that product. That's what the aluminum looks like. And then, yeah, flip it straight. So it's got a fiberglass seal over it, similar to how we have the cementitious mesh on the Wetty board. So you can use that as your permanent substrate if you're not going to use wood. The next question is how do you keep the clay moist?
Okay, so I'm going to show you in this workshop how to build the temporary frame. And we are going to put a plastic paper under the clay that comes up in the borders of the permanent frame, and then you can cover it. So it's very important to wet it when you finish to work daily. When you finish to work, you wet it with the spray bottle, and then you close it with this plastic leaf that we build together. Plus, if it's summer or if you live in a very hot place, you can even put your mosaic inside a kind of plastic bag. And the important is if you leave your mosaic for 2-3 days, no problem. But, and of course, the room temperature is very important. But if you know that you won't work on this mosaic for 1 month, for example, you have to remember to open it every 2-3 days. If it's very, very hot, even every day, to check how is the situation inside your temporary frame. And then you spray water, you check the consistency of the clay, and then you close again. So if you are going to keep in standby your mosaic on a temporary frame, both, if you decide to use clay or lime, it's better when you start your mosaic, it's better to start from the most important line, most important andamento. Because if you know that you are going to work for months on this mosaic, little by little, you are going to lose the ink, the drawing after 1 month, 2 months, and so on. And so it's better to to complete the outlines of the figure, for example. Or if it is an abstract, you can do the most important part, and then you can also trace with a spatula. So if you trace your clay with a spatula, your lines, the drawing, I mean, it's going to last even more.
And when you say spray, I just want people to know a word maybe that Ariana hasn't used is humid. You don't want to make it wet. You want to, that plastic is just going to keep it humid so that moisture is in there. So if you really wet that clay, you could lose your design. So sometimes another way to do it too is also just spray your plastic and then cover it up. And then that moisture, because it's all about just trapping some moisture and keeping the clay moist, not really making it wet, because you don't want to lose your design with too much spraying of the water. And then that is a really good point. If your piece can fit in another plastic, bigger container, that's great. But what Ariana teaches in the temporary frame is how to cut your plastic the way I was sort of showing you how to put back together. But that's a trick I had never thought of, and it's brilliant. So that's inside the course. So our next question is, can you use any other tessera but smalty for this process?
You mean for the
direct method, like marble, stained glass? Can they use other materials?
Sure, of course. They can use also other material. Yeah, absolutely. Smalty. Mostly in Ravenna, we use smalty, gold, natural materials like marble, stones, limestones, and so on. You can even use a little bit of stained glass, but of course, if you are going to do an entire mosaic using stained glass, maybe it's not the right technique to use. But if you want to put some pieces of stained glass and then some tessera of smalty and marble, you can mix material. Yes, of course.
Yeah, and it's a good technique to try and experiment with, but it's all again about how much that gauze and glue attach themselves to the tessera that's going to lift it from the temporary substrate or frame. Is there a way to use this technique on a 3D substrate, like a sculpture?
Maybe I will go with another technique for the sculpture. Yes, if it's a sculpture around sculpture, I think it's better to work with a direct technique, in the sculpture.
Yeah, I think that would be challenging, because what are you going to remove? The whole idea is that even though you get to work on something that's not permanent in the beginning, trying to do that on a surface, remove it and add it. But again, if you add enough clay maybe around that sculpture, but then it's going to change the shape of what's about to go back on. So thinking through that, I'm not sure that would actually work super well either. But again, we like to see experimentation. That's the most important part. The next question is, how do you clean the mosaic after it is installed, after it has been put on the permanent substrate?
Okay, so of course you need to wait at least 24 hours and to let the cement to cure perfectly, and then you can remove the gauze and the rabbit glue by using hot water and brushes.
Yeah, it's really such a much more practical process than many people, I think, would really realize. And so again, I can't impress enough that through this course and Ariana's fun-spirited personality, that it is just full of information. This is by far the biggest and most comprehensive course. It's over 6 hours of footage that Mosaic Arts Online has ever launched. So we're thrilled that Ariana and the Direct Ravenna method was able to become a part of our library here. And is there anything else you want to add? And before we forget, I did forget to say at the very beginning to say hi and where you're from in the chat. So please add that before we go away, because we love seeing that. This talk stays on our YouTube channel, our Mosaic Arts Online YouTube channel, as does the chat. So it's just a good way for everybody to know hello, where you're from, thank you for joining us, and all of that. But is there any other questions? Please pop them in the chat now. And Ariana, is there anything else you want to add before we give our special gift?
I would like to say that I really hope that you are going to enjoy my workshop. Don't be afraid about the many steps.
Live streaming is on.
Can she go? Hold on.
Probably.
Okay, we're back. Sorry, we had a little bit of a drop right there. But yes, Ariana was just saying that 6 hours, it's a good thing, but go on.
So for any question, any doubt, please write me in the comment section, and I will be very, very happy to answer to you. I think in 6 hours of workshop, I spoke a lot, and we had also to fix something, and so there are also some parts where I speak about the tricky parts and how to fix something. But for everything, any doubt, any question, I'm very, very available to answer.
We have one more question coming in. My producer says.
What sort of clay?
Oh, very good question. They're asking what sort of clay would you use for the process?
Sometimes I use the gray clay, the one when you cook it, it becomes the terracotta, typical.
When you
terracotta.
fire it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you fire it, it became Bordeaux, red. But you can even use the very light one. The important is you need a fine clay. That one is perfect.
This clay is excellent. It was $13. It's a 25-pound bag. I did get it at a art supply store, but it's simple ceramic clay. It is for firing, but if you want to use it just for this process, it was only $13 for 25 pounds.
That one is perfect. Yes.
And it's light colored. That helps a lot, right, with the design.
Exactly. It's perfect. Of course, we don't need to fire it in our workshop, but yeah, it's perfect, that one.
Yeah, and so I do want to add that it is a very extensive course, and Ariana does cover a lot, and she's super open to the questions. And the reason that I got very interested in Coco Mosaico and approaching Ariana and Luca for this course and doing this was they were getting a lot of questions in social media about how to do certain parts of their process. So this was the answer, so that all the questions can be answered in one place at one time. And having this course in perpetuity is such a wonderful thing that you can check it today if you get it. You can check it in 3 months. You can review it in a year. You may learn something new as you keep practicing this technique. So the course is yours once purchased, and then Ariana is at your beck and call, probably within 48 hours, just because we have a little bit of a time delay between California and Italy. But I can't thank you enough, Ariana, for coming. And well, we have one more question coming in.
That's a good question.
What is it?
Are there several options for the project?
Yes. Is there several options for the project? Yes. Sorry, I did not mention that. There are 4. There is the, Ariana, can you point to the parrot? You can point to 3 of them behind you. Well, 2 of them. She's got the parrot to her left. There's that one. We call that the flowers. That's an option to make that one. The pomegranates, which are in front of her. and then the bird to her left with the gold. That is an option. Yes, that one. No, no, no. The other one, the bird, that one. This one is an option. And then the fourth one, like we said, is a replica from the Basilica Galla Placidia that we don't have with us in this live, but you will see it in the course. So all four options you would want to print or go get printed. The size of, they're very high resolution photos that are downloadable for you in the course. And you will want to go get them printed. When I was doing my little demo here, because it was so small, I printed it right off of the computer. But if you want it bigger, and then you can keep it forever. So having these images is a great thing to just keep in your library for whenever you want to go. And I'm just going to throw in a little plug right now. But if all of you have been looking behind me at this teapot with this gorgeous gradation sitting here, that will be Arianna's next course we'll launch. It'll be in a couple months, probably after the first of the year. But Arianna has a lot up her sleeve, and we were just so grateful that we got there to shoot 2 courses so far. I have a feeling we're going back. But it has been such a special experience, and to know that Italy can be brought to you if you can't get to Ravenna. This is absolutely 100% the next best option of not being able to take a workshop literally in their studio. This is as good as it gets. And I want to throw one quick little plug in to her husband. And Luca Barberini, who is sitting to her right or left somewhere over there in that room, has been such a special part of this process as well. He's really stayed behind the scenes. And if you don't know who Luca is, go look him up. Luca, thank you so much for, during a really stressful time, you gave up your studio right before your exhibition for us to come film the 2 courses for Arianna. And you are such a talent, and one day we'll get you to teach something. No one can learn all Luca's process of what he does, but it is really, thank you so much for being a part of this, and all your behind the scenes support and effort has been incredible.
Thank you too.
Yeah, and so on that note, this is our very special gift to all of you for sticking with us, being here live. Arianna's course is now 15% off, upside right, for till tomorrow at midnight, California time, which if you're in Italy, that means Monday morning. So just use the code Ravenna15 where it says add coupon code at purchase, and you will get her course quickly for 15% off. Otherwise, it will be dropping to 10% off as of Monday morning or midnight Sunday. So this is your chance now to get a little extra discount for sticking with us and for having the opportunity to meet Arianna here, sort of live, sort of not right next to me, but as close as we could get. And I can't thank you enough for truly being a part of this process. And I think this course is just such a great gift to Mosaic Arts Online students in our community.
Thank you very much, Tami, and I'm very excited about this experience, and I really hope that the people can enjoy this technique.
I couldn't agree more. And on that note, I would like to say thank you to everybody that joined us. We are going to be bringing back the Mosaic Arts Online live events more regularly. We really think it's important to have as much engagement with all of you as possible. We know many of you couldn't get on, but that you're going to watch this later. So thank you for just supporting Mosaic Arts Online when you can, and continue to keep learning and creating and do it over and over and over again. And most importantly, be well. So thank you, thank you, thank you.